Welcome to Wealth Wisdom Daily, the place where old money myths die and new wealth mindsets are born. If you've ever looked at your paycheck and thought, I guess I'll just have to make this work, or looked at an opportunity and said, that's not for people like me, then this video is going to shatter everything you've been taught about planning, power, and what it really means to build wealth. Because here's the truth most people never hear. The poor plan around limits. The rich plan around leverage. One group builds their future around what they lack. The other builds around what they can amplify. Poor people ask, can I afford this? Rich people ask, how do I make this 10x return? Poor people calculate the cost. Rich people calculate the potential. And today, we're not just going to explain the difference. We're going to break it down, flip it on its head, and rebuild your entire financial mindset from the ground up. If you're tired of playing defense, if you're done surviving, if you're ready to learn how the wealthy actually think, then keep watching, because what you're about to hear might just be the most powerful shift you've ever made. Let's dive in. The mental shock of how you've been planning your entire life wrong. You've been told to be realistic, to live within your means, to play it safe, to make plans based on what you can afford, what you currently have, and what you think is possible. Sounds responsible, right? That's the trap. It feels responsible. It sounds logical. But it keeps you stuck in the exact same cycle you've been in for years, maybe your entire life. Let's break the illusion. The default planning model for most people is limits-based thinking. They ask themselves, how much do I make per month? What expenses do I have? What's left after that? Okay, that's what I can do. This is not strategy. It's survival logic. It's about managing constraints, not about creating expansion. It's about fitting your life into a tiny box, not building a bigger life outside of it. Poor and middle-class mindsets are taught to plan around what they lack. I don't make enough. I can't do that right now. Maybe someday when I have more. Everything is delayed. Everything is conditional. Everything is built from a foundation of fear and shortage. And then we wonder why nothing ever changes. Here's the wake-up call. If your plans are built around what you have, you will never create what you want. Your income, your limitations, your situation, they should never define your strategy. But that's exactly what most people do. They plan to survive, not to grow. They shrink their dreams to fit their income instead of expanding their income to fit their dreams. They operate with defensive planning. It's cautious, it's limited, and it keeps you exactly where you are. Now let's shift the frame. Let's look at how rich people approach it. Rich people don't plan based on what they lack. They plan based on what they can leverage. They don't say, I can't afford that. They ask, how can I access this through other people's time, other people's money, or a scalable system? They don't ask, can I afford this? They ask, how can I make this pay for itself tenfold? Rich people operate with offensive planning. They're not asking, can I survive this month? They're asking, how do I multiply this month into long-term wealth? This mindset changes everything. Poor people plan from a place of limits. Rich people plan from a place of leverage. Limits say, I have X, so I can only do Y. Leverage says, if I apply this the right way, I can turn X into 10X. Limits restrict. Leverage expands. Limits trap. Leverage frees. Limits assume the worst. Leverage assumes possibility. If you're building your life around what you don't have, you are designing a cage and then locking yourself inside it. Let's not blame anyone. Most people were never taught leverage. They were taught loyalty, obedience, and limitation. They were told, don't dream too big, Be grateful for what you have. Better safe than sorry. Stick to what's secure. These sound like wisdom, but they're really generational chains in disguise. The school system, the salary model, the 9-to-5 structure, the debt culture, it all teaches you one thing. Plan small, stay small, don't ask for more. This is how society keeps you in your lane. You're encouraged to be a good planner, just not a powerful one. Wealthy people think completely differently. They don't start with limitations, they start with possibilities. They ask, what systems can I use to do this faster? Who can I partner with to expand this? How can I use what I have to get more? They don't plan around their bank account. They plan around opportunities, networks, tools, scalability. Poor people think, what can I do by myself? Rich people think, how can I build something that works without me? Let's make this practical. Here are examples of how poor people ask from limits and how rich people ask from leverage. Poor people say, can I afford this? Rich people say, how can I make this investment work for me? Poor people say, is this too risky? Rich people say, how can I reduce risk through strategy or partnership? Poor people say, do I have time for this? Rich people say, who can help me make time or delegate this task? Poor people say, can I do this alone? Rich people say, who has already done this and can guide me? Poor people say, what's the cheapest way? Rich people say, what's the most scalable way? Changing the question changes the outcome. Every time you default to limits, ask yourself, how would someone with leverage think right now? This series will restructure your entire mindset. We're going to break down the core types of leverage: time, money, people, technology, and systems. We're going to expose how poor mindsets sabotage potential, and we're going to rebuild your entire strategy to think and plan like the wealthy, even if you're starting with nothing. But before we move forward, there's something you must accept. Your limits are not your prison. Your thinking is. If you can change how you plan, you can change how you live. And if you can understand leverage, you'll never settle for limits again. Let's move forward. Limits, the invisible trap that keeps the poor stuck. Most people never notice the trap they're in, not because it's hidden, but because it's been normalized. They've been taught since childhood to focus on what they don't have, what they can't do, what isn't allowed, what isn't realistic. This creates a mental operating system based on avoidance. Avoid risk, avoid failure, avoid disappointment, avoid embarrassment. And so, they begin every plan from the question, what am I missing? What's not possible? What can I cut? That's not planning, that's shrinking. And it's the mindset that keeps the poor poor. When you plan from limits, you start every decision from a place of fear, and fear never builds anything great. Let's break it down. The poor say, I can't afford that. I don't have the skills. I don't know anyone. I'm not ready yet. These aren't just excuses. They're subconscious belief systems programmed from years of scarcity. So what happens next? They set smaller goals. They take fewer chances. They stay in familiar places. They protect what little they have instead of reaching for more. And all of it feels smart, safe, responsible. But safety is not the same as strategy, and comfort is not the same as control. Let's be clear. Limit-based planning feels wise, but it's actually a defense mechanism. It's your brain trying to protect you from loss by convincing you that growth is dangerous. This is how the trap works. The moment you want more, your mind says, be careful, you don't have enough, you're not ready, you could lose it all. And just like that, you talk yourself out of progress. Not because the opportunity wasn't real, but because the limitation in your mind shouted louder than the possibility in front of you. Now here's the most dangerous part. The more you plan from limits, the more those limits become true. Let me say that again. The more you plan from what you lack, the more your life will reflect that lack. If you keep saying, "I can't," eventually you won't, because your actions follow your assumptions. And if you assume you can't win, you'll never play the game to begin with. That's how the poor stay stuck for generations. They don't just lack money, they lack mental permission to think bigger. And even when they see someone succeed, they say, "That's lucky. That's not for people like us. They had help. They had an advantage." This is envy, wearing the mask of logic. And it reinforces the belief that wealth is unreachable, which then justifies staying small. You see the cycle? Step 1, believe you can't. Step 2, don't try. Step 3, watch others win. Step 4, feel resentment. Step 5, go back to believing you can't. It's a trap, and it runs on autopilot for most people. But here's the good news. It's not permanent. It's learned, which means it can be unlearned. You were taught to plan small. You can teach yourself to plan smart. You were taught to avoid risk. You can learn to manage and use it. You were taught to protect what you have. You can expand what you can access. But first, you must stop worshiping the mindset of limits. Limits are not sacred. They are not noble. They are not your identity. They are starting points, not final walls. Rich people experience limits too, but they don't bow to them. They challenge them. They ask different questions. They bring in different tools. They seek out different people. And because of that, their limits bend, break, or become leverage. Meanwhile, the poor treat limits as permanent, unquestionable, unchangeable. They never ask, "How do I grow beyond this?" They ask, "How do I live with this?" That one mental shift changes everything. Because when you normalize limits, you don't solve them, you adapt to them. And when you adapt to poverty, it becomes your comfort zone. Let me be clear. If your comfort zone is defined by scarcity, you will never feel safe in abundance. You will sabotage success, you will shrink opportunity, you will deny your own potential. And all of that will feel reasonable because it matches your mental blueprint. This is not a mindset issue, it's a system issue. The poor are taught to be realistic, to lower expectations, to sacrifice dreams for stability. But what they're really sacrificing is freedom. True planning should not be about limitations. It should be about optimization, expansion, multiplication. You don't build a powerful life by cutting everything down. You build it by building smarter structures, leaning on stronger systems, tapping into resources beyond your own. That's what rich people do. They still face limits, but they don't stay inside them. They use them as signals, not prisons. And that's the invitation to you. Stop using your current situation as a boundary. Start using it as a launch pad. You don't need more money to begin planning like the wealthy. You need better questions, better frameworks, better courage. Because the moment you say, "I refuse to make decisions based on what I lack," is the moment your life begins to expand. In the next section, we'll explore what that expansion looks like. We'll introduce the power of leverage, the exact tools that wealthy people use to break out of limitation mode and scale their income, their time, and their freedom. But before we go there, let's make one thing crystal clear. Your life does not get bigger by planning for less. It gets bigger by daring to demand more and designing systems that make it possible. Let's move forward. Leverage, the secret tool of the wealthy. Now that we've exposed how limits-based thinking keeps you small, it's time to introduce the tool that the rich use to break those limits and multiply what they have into something greater. That tool is leverage. Most people misunderstand what leverage actually means. They think it's just about borrowing money or taking risky shortcuts. But real leverage is not about risk. It's about amplification. Leverage is how the rich turn 1 into 10, 10 into 100, and 100 into freedom. It's the force multiplier of everything they do. Let's define it clearly. Leverage is the ability to achieve greater results than your direct input. It's doing more with less. It's working smarter instead of harder. If you're working 10 hours to get 10 units of output, that's effort. But if you're working 1 hour and getting 100 units, that's leverage. And that difference is everything. Leverage is how wealth is truly built, not by grinding endlessly, but by finding smarter systems to multiply your value. Let's explore the core types of leverage. There are 5 main categories: time, money, people, tools, and systems. And the rich use all 5, often simultaneously. Let's start with time. You cannot make more hours in a day, but you can multiply what happens in each hour. That's leverage. Hiring someone to handle tasks, outsourcing work, automating repetitive actions, these are all forms of time leverage. While the poor say, "I don't have time," the rich say, "How can I buy time back?" They use money to buy time, they use systems to reclaim time, they use people to extend their reach. That's leverage. Second, money. Most people think of money as something you spend, but the rich think of money as something you use to grow more money. That's the true meaning of investment. Poor people spend money on liabilities. Rich people allocate money to assets that grow. And when they don't have money, they don't panic. They look for ways to access it. Through partnerships, through credit, through shared ownership, through investor funding. They're not afraid to use other people's money as long as it creates more value than it costs. That's leverage. Third, people. The average person tries to do everything alone. The rich delegate. They collaborate. They partner. They know that one great person can add massive value. One mentor can save years of mistakes. One team can build what one person never could. So they build networks, they recruit talent, they surround themselves with capability. While the poor are asking, "Can I do this by myself?" the rich are asking, "Who can help me do this faster and better?" That's leverage. Fourth, tools. Technology is one of the most underused forms of leverage. With a single tool, you can reach thousands of people, automate complex processes, analyze data at scale, operate businesses with a tiny team. But most people resist tools. They say it's too complicated. They say it's not for them. So they stick with manual work and wonder why they're exhausted. The rich don't avoid tools. They master them. They buy them. They build them. Because they know every tool is a lever that can lift their results higher with less effort. That's leverage. Fifth, systems. A system is any repeatable process that produces a predictable result. While most people wake up and react to their day, the rich design systems that run with or without them. They systematize sales. They systematize marketing. They systematize customer service. They systematize learning. They systematize investing. And once a system works, they scale it. They clone it. They license it. The result? More output, less stress, faster growth. That's the ultimate form of leverage. Let's step back now. Poor people are taught to rely on effort. Rich people are taught to rely on leverage. One pushes harder, the other scales smarter. And here's the painful truth. You cannot outwork someone who is using leverage because they are playing a different game entirely. If you're using only your time and energy, you will always be limited by your body and your hours. But if you're using other people's time, other people's money, smart tools, and scalable systems, your results are no longer limited by your own capacity. That's how the rich grow exponentially, while others burn out linearly. So let me ask you, how many levers are you using in your life right now? How many systems have you built? How many tools are working for you while you sleep? How many people are helping you multiply your impact? If the answer is none, then don't expect exponential results, no matter how hard you work. Because leverage is not optional if you want wealth. It's essential. And here's the beautiful part. You don't need millions to start using leverage. You don't need a company. You don't need employees. You just need to think differently. Start small. Use one tool. Automate one task. Hire one assistant. Build one repeatable process. Partner with one skilled person. Every new lever you add reduces the weight you carry and increases the speed you grow. It's not about working harder, it's about pulling smarter. In the next part, we'll compare in detail how poor and rich people approach the same situation differently, and how one uses fear while the other uses force. But for now, remember this: effort is limited, leverage is limitless. And the sooner you switch to leverage-based thinking, the sooner you stop surviving and start scaling. Let's keep going. Limits versus leverage, a side-by-side breakdown of two mindsets. Let's strip away all the noise and get brutally clear. There are two ways to approach life, two mindsets that shape everything. One is built on limits, the other is built on leverage. And the difference between them is the difference between struggle and success, between surviving and scaling, between staying stuck and rising fast. Let's put them side by side. The limits mindset says, what do I have? What am I allowed to do? What can I afford? What's realistic? How do I make this work with what I've got? The leverage mindset says, what can I access? Who can help me scale this? What tools can multiply this outcome? How do I get 10 times the return from one move? What's the smartest path to the biggest result? One is defensive, the other is offensive. One plays not to lose, the other plays to win. Let's take a real-world scenario. Same situation, two different responses. You want to start a business. The poor mindset says, I don't have the money. I don't know where to start. I don't want to risk what I have. I'll wait until I'm more ready. So they do nothing. They wait. They doubt. They shrink the dream. The rich mindset says, who can I partner with? What service can I offer with zero cost? What platform lets me start now? How do I pre-sell before building? How do I test fast and scale faster? Same goal, completely different thinking. Here's another example. You want to invest. The poor mindset says, I barely make enough to cover my bills. Investing is for rich people. It's too risky. I don't understand it. So they avoid, they delay, they stay dependent on one income stream. The rich mindset says, how do I learn fast and start small? What app lets me invest with $5? How do I build long-term wealth even with limited funds? What asset grows while I sleep? Who can guide me? One sees obstacles, The other sees angles. Now let's go even deeper. Limits thinking asks, what's the cheapest way to do this? Leverage thinking asks, what's the most scalable way to do this? Limits thinking says, how do I do it all by myself? Leverage thinking says, who already has the answer and how can I work with them? Limits thinking says, I can't afford to fail. Leverage thinking says, how do I fail fast and learn faster? The contrast is not just strategy, it's identity. People who operate from limits see themselves as small, as stuck, as unqualified, as behind. People who operate from leverage see themselves as builders, as multipliers, as students of power, as creators of possibility. And the difference plays out in every part of life. In career, poor thinkers look for jobs with fixed salaries. Rich thinkers look for performance-based roles or ways to own equity. In education, poor thinkers collect degrees hoping it will bring security. Rich thinkers collect skills, mentorship, and real-world results. In relationships, poor thinkers isolate and compete. Rich thinkers collaborate and expand networks. In time, poor thinkers trade hours for dollars. Rich thinkers trade ideas for results. It's not that rich people are smarter, it's that they're more strategic with their thinking. They don't settle for what's in front of them, they reach for what's beyond them, and they do it with intention. Here's something no one tells you. Every time you say, I can't, you are reinforcing limits thinking. And every time you say, how can I, you are opening the door to leverage. Even small questions matter. Instead of saying, this is all I've got, try asking, what can I do with what others already built? Instead of saying, it's too hard, try asking, who's already solved this and what can I learn from them? Instead of saying, I'm not qualified, ask, how fast can I become valuable? Your questions direct your actions shape your results, and your results reinforce your mindset. The rich don't wait for resources, they build or borrow them. They don't focus on what's missing, they focus on what's possible. They don't ask for permission, they build momentum. And that's what you need to start doing now. Stop calculating what you can't do, start multiplying what you can access. Stop playing to survive, start planning to scale. In the next part, we'll take a deeper look at the first major type of leverage, time. You'll learn why the rich treat time like currency, why poor people waste it unknowingly, and how you can start using time as a tool instead of treating it as a trap. But before that, let this sink in. You can't build an abundant life using a scarcity mindset. You can't scale like the rich while thinking like the poor. It all starts with how you approach a simple decision, with limits or with leverage. Choose wisely, then build accordingly. Let's move on.
Time leverage, how the rich buy back the most valuable asset on Earth. There is one resource you cannot make more of, one asset that everyone receives equally, and one factor that determines whether you grow or stay stuck. That asset is time. But here's the difference. Poor people spend time. Rich people multiply it. Poor people trade time for money. Rich people trade money for time. Poor people ask, how much does it cost? Rich people ask, how long will this take, and can I make it happen faster without doing it myself? Time leverage is not just a productivity hack, it is the foundation of exponential growth. Because time is the one currency you cannot replace. And yet, it is the one most people waste the most. Let's go deeper. Poor people see time as something they must sacrifice. So they wake up early, work late, do everything themselves, and think they are being responsible. But hard work without leverage is just exhaustion. It is honorable, but it is not scalable. You cannot work 24 hours a day. You cannot answer every email, fulfill every order, solve every problem. And yet, most people live like that is their only option. They are stuck in what we call the time trap. The belief that the only way to earn more is to do more, work more, sacrifice more. But the truth is, your time is too valuable to spend on tasks that do not multiply your results. This is where leverage begins. The rich understand that the goal is not to do everything. The goal is to build a machine that does more than you ever could. That begins with one mindset shift. Ask not, how can I do this? Ask, how can I make this happen without me? That's the key to time leverage. Let's break it into levels. Level 1, elimination. Stop doing tasks that produce no value. If it does not move you forward, cut it. This includes busy work, micromanaging, low-impact meetings, or constantly switching between tasks. Level 2, delegation. If someone else can do it 70% as well as you, let them. Your job is not to be perfect. Your job is to focus on high-leverage actions and free your time from everything else. Hire a virtual assistant. Outsource your editing. Automate your scheduling. It is not an expense, it is an investment in reclaiming your time. Level 3, automation. Use technology to perform repetitive actions. Email sequences, customer follow-ups, payment systems, content publishing. All of these can run without you if you build the systems once. This means you stop being the bottleneck and start being the architect. Level 4, multiplication. Use time in a way that creates value even after you stop working. Record once, sell forever. Build once, earn forever. Write once, impact thousands. This is the holy grail of time leverage, and it is exactly what the wealthy pursue. They do not build empires by working harder. They build systems that work without them. And they start early. Even when they do not have money, they think, who can I work with? What can I set up now that saves me time later? How can I serve more people with the same amount of effort? This is how 1 hour becomes 10, how one task becomes a business, how one idea becomes an income stream. Meanwhile, the poor are still asking, how many hours can I work this week? They celebrate busyness instead of effectiveness. But being busy is not the same as being valuable, and doing more is not the same as growing more. In fact, if your calendar is full, you might be operating without leverage, because true freedom is when your results continue even when you stop. That does not happen by chance. It happens by design. Let's get practical. Here are questions to shift your time mindset. Instead of asking, how do I finish this task? Ask, how do I systematize this task? Instead of asking, can I do this by myself? Ask, who can do this better and faster? Instead of asking, is this urgent? Ask, is this important? Does this move the needle? Or is this just noise? The wealthy value their time like gold. They protect it, invest it, multiply it. They do not waste it trying to save money. They spend money to buy more time. Because time can buy money, but money cannot buy back time once it's gone. So the real question is, where are you wasting your time on things that don't grow your life? Where are you still doing what could be automated, delegated, or eliminated? Time leverage starts when you stop being proud of doing it all and start becoming strategic about what you should never do again. Because the truth is, you do not need to do everything. You need to do the right things and make sure the rest still gets done without you. That is the mindset that builds freedom. That is how the rich live. And that is how you begin to break out of the cycle. In the next part, we will explore the second major lever, people. You will learn how the rich surround themselves with talent, build networks that grow opportunities, and turn relationships into rocket fuel. But for now, remember this. If you are still trading hours for dollars, you are playing the wrong game. The rich do not work more, they multiply more.
People leverage, how the rich use others to scale while the poor try to do it alone. There is a dangerous lie that most people carry in their heads. It sounds noble, it sounds tough, it even feels right, but it is killing their progress. That lie is this: I have to do it all by myself. This mindset traps millions of people in a cycle of isolation and exhaustion. They wear it like a badge of honor, thinking that doing it alone means they deserve success more. But here's the truth. You do not get extra points for suffering alone. You just get stuck. The rich know something different. They know that success is not a solo sport. It's a team game. And people are the most powerful lever you can pull. While poor and middle-class mindsets try to prove their worth by doing it all, the rich prove their intelligence by building networks that multiply what they can do. Let's break this down. When poor thinkers see a challenge, they ask, how do I solve this? When rich thinkers see a challenge, they ask, who has already solved this and how can I work with them? That's people leverage. Tapping into knowledge, skill, experience, and time that does not belong to you, but can work for you. It's not exploitation, it's collaboration, and it is how empires are built. Look at any major company. It was not built by one person working 20 hours a day. It was built by visionaries who attracted talent, delegated roles, and multiplied themselves through others. You do not need to be the smartest person in the room. You just need to be the one who brings the right people into the room. But poor thinkers resist this. They say, no one can do it like me. I can't afford help. I don't trust people. What if they fail me? These are all fear-based excuses, rooted in control and scarcity, not strategy. The truth is, trying to do it all makes you the bottleneck. You slow everything down because your capacity becomes the limit of your business, your dream, your income, your freedom. Meanwhile, rich thinkers ask, who is better at this than me? Who loves doing what drains me? Who has connections I do not have? Who has strengths that complement my weaknesses? Then they build with those people. This is not about hiring employees you can't afford. It starts smaller than that. It might mean partnering with someone who has the skills you lack, trading services to move forward faster, hiring a virtual assistant to free up your brain power, joining a community where people are playing a bigger game. Even asking for advice, mentorship, or feedback is a form of people leverage. Poor thinkers believe asking for help makes them look weak. Rich thinkers know that not asking is what keeps you broke. Let's go even deeper. There are 4 key types of people leverage. Each one serves a unique purpose. Number 1, operational help. These are the people who do tasks so you don't have to. Assistants, editors, managers. They allow you to stay focused on your highest value actions. Number 2, skill leverage. These are experts in things you are not great at. Designers, marketers, developers, writers. They execute better and faster than you ever could. Number 3, strategic partners. These are people with reach, influence, networks, or resources that you do not have. They open doors you could never open alone. And number 4, mentors. These are people who have already been where you are going. They shorten your learning curve, save you from expensive mistakes, and help you leap forward instead of crawling blindly. Every wealthy person leverages these 4 groups, and they don't wait until they're rich to start. They start with what they have and expand as they grow. This is not about exploitation. It's about elevation. You are not using people, you're building with people. And in return, you create value for them. You pay them, empower them, reward them. That's what real leadership looks like. Now, let's look at the cost of doing it all alone. When you work solo, you're limited by your energy, your expertise, and your emotions. If you burn out, the work stops. If you hit a wall, you stay stuck. If you lack motivation, nothing moves forward. That's a fragile system, and it's why so many brilliant people stay broke. They think it's safer to rely on themselves, but the truth is, it's far riskier, because your greatest breakthroughs will come from other people, not just from grinding harder in isolation. The right conversation, the right introduction, the right teammate can change everything. You never know who knows someone who holds the key to your next level. But if you're stuck in lone wolf mode, you'll never find out. Here's the shift. Instead of asking, what do I need to do? Start asking, who do I need to know? Who can help? Who can build this faster? Who can do this better? Who can take this further than I ever could alone? That's how the rich move fast. That's how they multiply results. That's how they turn one idea into a full-blown movement. And it all begins by letting go of the need to do it alone. In the next section, we'll dive into tool leverage, how technology and platforms give you superpowers, even if you're just starting out. But before we get there, remember this. Doing it all yourself does not prove your strength. It only proves your limit. And no one builds something great by staying small on purpose. So stop proving and start multiplying. Let's continue. Tool leverage. How the rich use technology to multiply while others stay manual. There is a reason the gap between the rich and everyone else keeps growing. It's not just mindset, it's not just money, it's not even luck. It is tools. The rich use tools to multiply every hour, every idea, every effort, while the poor and middle class still rely on doing things by hand, one task at a time, one person at a time, one mistake at a time. This is the difference between building a machine and being the machine. Tool leverage is one of the most powerful yet most ignored forms of exponential growth. Let's break it open. What is a tool? A tool is anything that allows you to do more with less effort. From a hammer to a laptop, from email marketing software to AI. A tool is a multiplier, a shortcut, a force amplifier. And here's the secret. Tools do not replace humans. They replace repetition. They eliminate waste. They free you to do what actually matters. But here's the problem. Poor thinkers often fear tools. They say it's too complicated. They say it's expensive. They say they're not tech-savvy. So they avoid, and they stay stuck. Rich thinkers do the opposite. They embrace tools early. They learn what matters. They delegate what they do not understand. They let the tools do the heavy lifting. And the result? Faster results, bigger reach, more freedom. Let's look at a simple example. Two people start a business. One writes emails manually to each customer, tracks orders on a spreadsheet, posts content by hand every day, answers every question personally. The other sets up email automation, uses a customer management system, schedules content a month in advance, uses chatbots to handle FAQs. After 6 months, one is overwhelmed, the other is scaling. Same idea, different tools, radically different results. Here's the truth. You cannot compete with someone using tools if you're still doing it all yourself. Because tools don't get tired. Tools don't forget. Tools don't take lunch breaks. Tools don't make emotional decisions. They just work, quietly, powerfully, around the clock. So why do most people ignore them? Because they confuse activity with progress. They feel productive doing it all by hand. They think it builds character. They think it saves money. But saving money while losing time is a losing strategy, always. Smart people use tools not because they're lazy, but because they're clear. They want to win, not just stay busy. Let's talk about categories of tool leverage you can use right now. First, automation tools. These handle tasks without you. Email marketing, order processing, customer follow-ups, onboarding sequences, these can all run on autopilot. Second, productivity tools. These help you stay focused and organized. Task managers, calendar apps, time trackers, note systems. The rich are not more disciplined, they just use better systems. Third, communication tools. Instead of long meetings, they use asynchronous messaging. Instead of chasing feedback, they use shared documents. Instead of repeating themselves, they create playbooks. Fourth, creation tools. Graphic design apps, video editing software, AI writing assistants. These allow one person to produce at the level of a full team. Fifth, analytics tools. The rich don't guess what works. They track, measure, and adjust. From website traffic to ad performance to customer behavior, they use data to make better decisions. Now, here's the best part. Most of these tools are free or affordable. You do not need millions. You just need willingness. Willingness to learn, to adapt, to stop being proud of doing it manually. Because in today's world, doing everything by hand is not a badge of honor. It's a strategy for burnout. So ask yourself, where are you still using your time when a tool could be doing it better? Where are you wasting mental energy on something a software could manage? Where are you avoiding a tool out of fear or ego? Let go of that. Because tools do not make you weak, they make you scalable. The richest people in the world are not typing every email. They're not designing every graphic. They are not manually posting every piece of content. They built systems with tools that now work harder than they ever could. That is what you must do. Start small. Use one tool. Master it, then stack another and another. Every new tool is one less weight on your shoulders and one more engine pushing you forward. In the next section, we will explore the power of financial leverage, how the rich use money to create more money, while the poor are afraid to even touch it. But for now, remember this. In the modern world, it is not the strongest who win, it's the most leveraged. And tools are the simplest leverage you can access today. Let's keep going. Financial leverage. How the rich use money to multiply while the poor use it to survive. Money is emotional. For most people, it triggers fear, stress, scarcity. But for the wealthy, money is not emotional. It is strategic. The rich do not worship money. They use it, they move it, they multiply it. That is the power of financial leverage. While the poor try to save, the rich try to scale. While the poor see money as a limitation, the rich see it as a lever. Let's make it clear. Poor people ask, "Can I afford this?" Rich people ask, "How can this pay me back tenfold?" Poor people save to feel safe. Rich people invest to create freedom. Poor people use money as an end. Rich people use money as a tool. That difference changes everything. Let's go deeper. Most people are taught to protect money, to avoid debt, to play it safe, to live below their means. And yes, financial discipline is important. But if all you ever do is save, you will never scale. Because money sitting still does not grow. Money at rest is money losing value, especially with inflation rising every year. Rich people know this, so they keep money moving. They invest it. They reinvest it. They put it to work. They understand one key truth. Money is not for storage. It is for leverage. Let's break that down. Financial leverage means using money to create more money faster and with less effort. This might mean investing in assets that appreciate, starting a business that generates income, funding marketing to reach new customers, buying systems that free up time. Whatever it is, the goal is always the same: turn $1 into more than $1. But the poor mindset is afraid of that. It says, what if I lose it? What if it does not work? What if I fail? So they save, they hoard, they play defense. And in doing so, they lose the one thing money can buy that is truly priceless: time. Because without leverage, you spend your life earning money manually, slowly, painfully. The rich shortcut that process by putting their money into places where it works harder than they do. Let's address the fear around debt. Not all debt is bad. There is bad debt and there is smart debt. Bad debt is used to buy liabilities, things that lose value, things that do not produce income. Credit cards for shopping, loans for vacations, financing things you cannot afford. Smart debt is used to buy assets, things that grow in value or generate cash flow. Loans for real estate, funding a business, leveraging capital to build systems. The rich use smart debt to go faster, not recklessly, but intentionally. They ask, will this create more income than it costs? Will this free me to do more? Will this expand what I can reach? And if the answer is yes, they move. Meanwhile, the poor stay frozen, paralyzed by the fear of losing even when the upside is greater than the risk. This is why financial education is so important, because without it, you fear what the rich understand. Here are some financial leverage moves you can start exploring. Number 1, investing in income-producing assets. This includes dividend stocks, rental properties, digital products, anything that pays you without requiring constant work. Number 2, using capital to build systems, hiring people, buying tools, creating automated sales funnels. These are investments that multiply your time and income. Number 3, collaborating with others by pooling money, co-investing in deals, sharing resources, funding something together. Leverage is not just solo, it can be collective. Number 4, reinvesting profits instead of spending them. Poor people earn and spend. Rich people earn and reinvest. That is how compounding works. Number 5, understanding the value of opportunity. Sometimes the fastest path to wealth is saying yes to an opportunity that stretches you, even if it costs money up front. Because what you gain long-term is far greater than what you spend right now. Let's be clear, you do not need a lot of money to use financial leverage. You just need to stop being afraid of it. You can start small, $10, $100, a few hours of learning. But you must start thinking like an investor, not a saver, not a spender, an investor. Because investors think in returns, not in prices. They ask, what does this produce, not just, what does this cost? That question shifts everything. In the next part, we'll dive into systems, how the rich design workflows that make their income predictable, scalable, and self-sustaining. But for now, here's your reminder. Money is not something to fear, it is something to direct. And when you stop letting money control your life, you start using it to build your freedom. That is the real power of financial leverage. Let's move forward. System leverage. How the rich build machines that make money while they sleep. Let us be honest. Most people do not have a money problem. They have a system problem. They are not broke because they are lazy. They are broke because they are still operating without leverage, without structure, without systems. And in today's world, if you do not have systems, you do not have freedom. The rich know this. They do not just work harder. They build systems that work harder than they ever could. While the poor are stuck doing everything manually, one task at a time, one customer at a time, one paycheck at a time. The rich are designing workflows that scale, that repeat, that produce consistent results. That is the power of system leverage. Let us define it simply. A system is anything that delivers a repeatable result with minimal ongoing effort. It's the difference between selling something once and building a process that sells it 1,000 times. Systems are the foundation of scalable success and the reason wealth can be built without burnout. The problem is, most people were never taught how to think in systems. They think in tasks, to-do lists, random actions, constant reaction. Wake up, check notifications, answer messages, start from scratch every day. That is survival mode, not strategy. The rich think differently. They ask, how can I build a machine that runs without me, that keeps growing, that keeps earning, that keeps serving? Let's break it down. There are 5 major systems the rich use, and each one replaces hours of work with automated power. Number 1, sales systems. Instead of cold calling one person at a time, they build funnels, websites, landing pages, email sequences, so that sales happen automatically. The result? They wake up to orders, not stress. Number 2, marketing systems. Instead of randomly posting on social media, they schedule content, run ads, use lead magnets, build automated nurture sequences so that new people find them every day without chasing or begging. Number 3, delivery systems. Instead of manually delivering products or services, they use digital downloads, course platforms, software tools, shipping fulfillment centers, so that customers are served consistently without the creator being involved every time. Number 4, customer service systems. Instead of answering every question, they create knowledge bases, FAQ pages, automated replies, support teams, so that their time is protected and their clients still feel cared for. Number 5, learning systems. Instead of randomly consuming content, they set structured time for learning, use note systems, frameworks, and mentorship loops to make every lesson part of their growth engine. The result of all this? Their business, their wealth, their personal development, it all compounds because they're not starting from zero every morning. They are standing on yesterday's structure. Meanwhile, people without systems repeat the same actions over and over and call it work. They are working in their life, not on their life. That is why they feel busy, but not effective. Here's a truth most people don't want to hear. If you're still the one doing every part of the process, you don't have a business. You have a job you created for yourself, and that job owns you. True freedom comes when your systems are working even when you're not. That is not a dream. That is design. And the best part? You don't need to build a massive company to have systems. You can start now. Automate one email, schedule one post, record one video that sells your product every day. Build one process that someone else can follow. Then do it again. then do it better, then do it bigger. Because the goal is not just to work hard, it's to build something that keeps working, with or without you. Let's get practical. Ask yourself, what do I do every day that could be automated? What questions do people ask me over and over that I could answer once in a system? What task am I repeating that I could document and hand off to someone else? What process is chaotic that could be simplified and streamlined? Every time you answer one of those questions, you're replacing effort with architecture. And that's the shift. Poor people think in hours. Rich people think in engines. The poor ask, how do I get through today? The rich ask, what system can I build today that frees me tomorrow? In the next part, we'll shift from external systems to internal mindset. We'll talk about how to build leverage even if you're starting from zero. Because this is not about having more, it's about thinking differently. But before we go there, let this sink in. Your life is either built on habits or built on systems. Habits are personal. Systems are scalable. If you want to grow beyond your own capacity, you must build systems. Not someday, now. Let's keep going. Building a leverage mindset from zero, even if you have no money, no network, and no advantage. Let us address the most common excuse right now. It is easy for the rich to use leverage. They have money, they have contacts, they have options. But what about me? I have nothing. No capital, no team, no experience, no connections. That is the starting point for most people, and it is completely valid. But here's the truth you need to hear. You do not need money to use leverage. You need mindset. Because leverage is not something you buy. It is something you create. It starts in how you think, how you ask questions, how you approach problems, how you see possibilities. That is where everything changes. Let us break it down. If you are starting from zero, there are 5 leverage principles you can adopt right now. No money required, no network needed, only a shift in thinking. Principle 1. Stop asking, can I? Start asking, how can I? This is the most important shift. Can I means you're waiting for permission. How can I means you are creating the path. Poor thinkers ask, can I afford it? Can I do it? Can I compete? Rich thinkers ask, how can I afford it? How can I do it faster? How can I partner or build with someone else? This one change turns limitation into leverage. Principle 2. Trade time for learning, not for comfort. If you have no money, you have time. Use it like capital. Study leverage. Study systems. Study tools. Not for entertainment, but for execution. Build skills that give you value in the marketplace. Write better. Speak better. Sell better. Design better. Solve problems faster. Every skill is a form of leverage because once you own it, you can use it again and again with no extra cost. Principle 3. Leverage people by offering value, not begging for help. You may not have a network, but you can build one. Not by asking, can you give me something? But by asking, how can I serve you? How can I help? How can I support your goals? This creates connection, respect, and opportunity. Serve first, ask later. Every relationship starts with value. Principle 4. Start with free tools and scale later. You do not need expensive software to begin. There are free tools for writing, design, video creation, email marketing, automation, and more. Use what you have while you learn what you need. Then reinvest once you grow. Most people wait to be perfect before they start, but the smart ones start imperfectly and grow through iteration. Principle 5. Document everything you do. Build systems from day one. Even if you're doing everything yourself, write it down. Create templates. Build repeatable processes. That way, when you do grow, you're not starting from chaos. You're building from a foundation. This mindset turns even your smallest actions into future leverage. Now, let's make this personal. You may not have financial capital, but you have creative capital. You have learning ability. You have energy. You have time. You have hunger. Those are assets if you treat them like it. The poor waste those assets, scrolling, complaining, waiting for something to change. The rich mindset says, how do I multiply what I do have instead of crying over what I don't? That's leverage thinking. It's not about your resources, it's about your resourcefulness. Let us say it again. Leverage starts with resourcefulness, not with wealth. If you're willing to think, learn, ask better questions, take small but strategic actions, you're already ahead of 90% of people. Because most are still stuck trying to control everything by themselves without ever realizing the true game. Here are some leverage questions to use daily, even if you're starting from zero. What is one thing I can do today that will save me time tomorrow? What is one relationship I can begin that might open doors in the future? What is one tool I can learn that will multiply my ability? What is one system I can build that will remove a repeating task? What is one piece of content I can create that works for me while I sleep? These are leverage-based questions, and they require no money, only thought, only courage, only intention. In the next part, we'll explore how the questions you ask determine the level you stay at. We'll break down the difference between poor and rich questions and how to train your brain to seek leverage automatically. But before we go there, let this sink in. You do not need to be wealthy to think like the wealthy. You need to stop thinking like the limited. Because leverage is not about having more. It's about demanding more from what you already have. Start where you are. Use what you can. Build as you go. That's the real way forward. Let's keep going. The right questions rich people ask. Why their thinking wins before they even act. If you want to understand why rich people win, do not just look at what they do. Look at how they think before they act. Because success does not start with action. It starts with the questions you ask. Poor people ask questions that shrink possibilities. Rich people ask questions that expand them. Poor questions lead to fear, hesitation, excuses. Rich questions lead to leverage, clarity, momentum. Let's break this down. Poor people ask, can I afford this? Rich people ask, how can I make this pay me back tenfold? Poor people ask, what if I fail? Rich people ask, what will I learn if I try? Poor people ask, can I do this alone? Rich people ask, who can help me do this faster and better? Poor people ask, is this risky? Rich people ask, how do I manage risk and move forward anyway? Poor people ask, what is the cheapest way? Rich people ask, what is the most scalable way? These questions may seem small, but they shape the way you interpret reality. They shape the decisions you make. They shape the outcomes you allow yourself to chase. If your questions are weak, your actions will be limited. If your questions are powerful, your actions will be bold. Let us go deeper. Poor questions are focused on survival. Rich questions are focused on multiplication. Poor questions come from fear. Rich questions come from vision. Poor questions close doors. Rich questions open them. And the most dangerous part is that most people do not even realize their questions are broken. They think they are being smart, careful, responsible, but they are really just reinforcing the mindset of limitation. Let me show you how rich thinkers build leverage through questions. They ask, "What can I do once that pays me forever? What system can I build that runs without me? Who already has the answer, and how can I partner or learn from them? What tool or platform can turn 1 hour of work into 100 hours of impact? What relationship would make everything easier, and how do I start it? What assumptions am I making that are keeping me small? What do I need to stop doing so I can focus on what matters? What do I need to invest in today that will free me tomorrow?" These are not just good questions, they are leverage questions. They move your thinking out of survival and into strategy, out of fear and into power. Let us simplify this into a rule. If the question leads to shrinking, it is the wrong question. If the question leads to scaling, it is the right one. Let's test it. Can I afford it? Leads to shrinking. How can I make this affordable? Leads to scaling. Do I have time? Leads to shrinking. How do I create time? Leads to scaling. What if I lose? Leads to shrinking. How do I protect downside and still move forward? Leads to scaling. Now here's the truth. You do not rise to the level of your ambition. You rise to the level of your questions. Your brain is like a search engine. It answers what you ask. If you ask low-level questions, you get low-level solutions. But if you raise the quality of your questions, you raise the quality of your life. So let us build a daily habit. Every morning, ask yourself one leverage question. Not, "What do I have to do today?" but "What can I build today that makes tomorrow easier?" Not, "How do I stay busy?" but "How do I get results with less time?" Not, "What do I need to finish?" but "What should I never do again if I want to scale?" This rewires your thinking from being reactive to being intentional, from being overwhelmed to being strategic. Here are 7 powerful questions to write down and revisit every week. 1. What am I doing manually that could be automated? 2. What am I repeating that could be systematized? 3. What am I holding on to that someone else could do better? 4. What decision am I avoiding that could unlock momentum? 5. What skill can I learn that gives me exponential return? 6. What relationship can I nurture that opens new levels of access? 7. What am I tolerating that is keeping me small? These questions do not just shift your actions, they shift your identity. Because the person who asks better questions becomes a better thinker, a better builder, a better leader. In the next part, we will look at how time, people, tools, money, and systems combine over time to create compounding leverage. Because the wealthy do not win with one big move. They win by stacking small advantages until they become unstoppable. But before we go there, remember this. Your questions are the blueprint of your future. Ask small, stay small. Ask with leverage, live with freedom. Let us keep going.
The compounding power of leverage. How small advantages become unstoppable over time. Leverage does not need to be massive on day one. It does not need to be perfect. It does not need to impress anyone. It just needs to begin. Because the real power of leverage is not in what it does today, but in what it becomes over time. This is the secret no one talks about. Wealthy people do not build empires overnight.
They build systems, habits, networks, and tools that stack, that layer, that compound. Little by little, until one day it looks unstoppable from the outside. But what you are seeing is the result of leverage applied consistently. Not one big move, but many small ones that never stopped. Let us go deeper. Imagine you write one great piece of content that lives online forever. It brings in one lead per day. That's 30 leads a month, 360 a year. Over 10 years, that's thousands of people reached from one moment of action. That is compounding leverage. Or you create one automated email sequence. It saves you 10 minutes per customer. You serve 100 customers a month. That's 1,000 minutes saved, nearly 17 hours a month, 200 hours a year. That's 5 full weeks of your life bought back from one small system. Or you make one connection, one introduction, one partnership that creates a new stream of opportunity. At first, it looks like nothing, but over time, that one relationship leads to new clients, new ideas, new markets. That is compounding leverage. Most people miss this because they expect instant results. They build a tool and want overnight traffic. They start a system and want immediate freedom. They create one video and expect to go viral. But leverage rewards consistency, not impatience. Every system you build, every tool you set up, every process you improve, every asset you create starts slow, then snowballs. That's why the rich get richer, not just because they have more, but because they use what they have in ways that compound. Poor people reset every day, start from zero, repeat the same manual tasks because they never build things that last. Rich people move from repetition to replication to automation to domination, step by step. So let's make this practical. What leverage can you build today that saves you time tomorrow? What habit can you start that makes every future decision easier? What system can you implement that removes 5 minutes of work per day? What tool can you learn that makes you twice as fast for the rest of your life? It may not seem impressive at first, but that's how compound leverage works. It's invisible until it is undeniable. You do not need to be explosive, you need to be consistent. Because 1% improvement stacked over time beats 100% effort that burns out in a week. Let's talk about the most dangerous mistake people make with leverage. They start building, then stop when results are not instant. They build half a funnel, half a team, half a system, half a brand, and then say, it didn't work. But leverage is like planting a seed. It grows underground first, and only those who stay consistent ever see the harvest. If you want the rich life, you need the patient mindset, the one that understands every small advantage compounds, every smart move echoes forward, and that momentum multiplies itself. Let's look at what happens when you stack leverage over 5 years. Year 1, you build one audience, one offer, one system. It feels slow, but it's real. Year 2, you improve those systems. You add a tool, you delegate some tasks. Now your time is opening up. Your income is steady. Year 3, you reinvest, you build a team, you scale marketing, you buy back more time. Now things are moving without your constant input. Year 4, you stack new products, new platforms, new revenue channels. Your reputation works for you. Your content is evergreen. Your systems are humming. Year 5, you're earning in your sleep. You're free to think, create, expand. And it all started with one leverage habit you stuck with. This is not theory. This is how wealth is actually built. Consistent, compounded, intelligent leverage applied over time. Let's close with this. Do not be fooled by speed. Be faithful to structure. Do not compare your Chapter 1 to someone else's Chapter 10. Build your own engine, then let it run and keep upgrading it as you go. Because 5 years of slow, intentional leverage can change your life forever.
Breaking the myth. Leverage is not the risk. Staying poor is. One of the biggest reasons people avoid leverage is fear. They say it is too risky, too complicated, too unstable, too unpredictable. But here's the truth. Leverage is not the risk. Staying poor is. Depending only on your time, your energy, your hands, your job, that is the real danger. Because in a world that is changing faster than ever, having no leverage, no backup, no system, no assets means your entire life is one emergency away from collapse. That is not security. That is silent panic. Let us break this open. People say hiring is risky. What if they mess up? But doing everything yourself means you are the bottleneck. You are the only point of failure. If you get sick, burn out, or disappear, everything stops. That is risk. People say automation is risky. What if the tech fails? But doing everything manually means every day is a grind, and every mistake is on you, forever. That is risk. People say investing is risky. What if I lose money? But never investing means you lose time, compounding, freedom, and inflation eats your savings anyway. That is risk. People say building systems is risky. What if it breaks? But having no system means you're stuck, repeating the same tasks forever, trading your life away for work that never scales. That is risk. People say taking action is risky. What if I fail? But staying still guarantees you stay broke. You never grow. You never reach your potential. That is not safety. That is stagnation. You have been taught to fear movement, to fear growth, to fear change. But you should fear staying the same. Because here's the truth no one told you. Leverage does not create risk. Leverage reveals whether you were building intelligently or not. If you build leverage with no strategy, yes, you may fail. But if you build leverage with intention, with learning, with testing, with reflection, you win over time, every time. Let's reframe the conversation. Risk is not stepping into the unknown. Risk is refusing to leave the known, even when it is slowly destroying you. There is no risk in building something that multiplies your time, your income, your peace of mind. The real risk is wasting your life on work that does not scale, stress that does not stop, income that does not grow. So let us say it clearly. Leverage is not a gamble. Leverage is a strategy. It is not reckless. It is intelligent. It is not about throwing effort into chaos. It is about channeling energy into systems that work harder than you ever could alone. And yes, there may be bumps, mistakes, false starts. But so what? Mistakes are the tuition of growth. And the price of staying small is far higher than the cost of trying. Let's talk numbers. What is the cost of not building leverage? How much time are you losing every week doing tasks a tool could automate? How much money are you not earning because you have no system to scale your product? How many people are not hearing your message because you have no content strategy, no delivery platform, no visibility machine? How many opportunities are passing you by because you're too busy surviving to look up and think strategically? That is the cost of not using leverage, and it is massive.
Meanwhile, the rich take calculated risks. They test ideas. They learn tools. They hire slowly and fire fast. They build systems step by step. And because of that, they build engines that protect them while others are still trying to work harder. Leverage is not a luxury. It is a necessity. And the longer you avoid it, the longer you stay fragile. Let us finish this part with a mindset shift. Do not ask, "What if this fails?" Ask, "What happens if I never try?" Do not ask, "Is this safe?" Ask, "Is staying stuck really safer?" Do not ask, "What is the downside of leverage?" Ask, "What is the guaranteed downside of never growing at all?" Because the world does not reward fear. It rewards creation, courage, and systems that move you forward, even when you're tired, even when you're learning, even when no one is watching yet. In the next part, we will bring everything together and help you decide how to start planning your life not around your current limits, but around the leverage you can build. Because once you stop seeing leverage as risk and start seeing poverty as the real danger, everything changes. Let's move forward.
Final shift. Stop planning around limits. Start building around leverage. You have a choice to make. Every day, you can wake up and ask the same questions. How much can I afford? How much can I do? What am I allowed to have? You can stay small, stay safe, stay stuck. Or you can start asking better questions. Who can help me scale this? What system can multiply this effort? How do I use what I have to create more than what I see? That is the mindset of leverage, and that is the mindset that builds wealth. Let us be clear. Nothing changes until your thinking does, because your plans come from your beliefs. Your actions come from your plans, and your future comes from your actions. If your beliefs are based on limits, then your plans will be weak, your moves will be small, and your results will be predictable. But if your beliefs are built on leverage, then your plans will be powerful, your moves will be strategic, and your results will be exponential. This is the shift that separates the rich from the rest. They do not have more because they were lucky. They have more because they learned to multiply, not manage, not minimize, multiply. They do not ask, "Can I survive this month?" They ask, "How do I build a machine that pays me forever?" They do not say, "I do not have enough." They say, "How do I turn what I have into more than I need?" That is not positive thinking. That is leverage thinking. Now it is your turn. You do not need to have it all figured out. You do not need to wait until the perfect time. You just need to stop building plans around what you lack and start building around what you can leverage. Start small. One system, one skill, one connection, one tool, one habit, one question. Then stack. Build your leverage like bricks, one on top of the other, until what once looked impossible now feels automatic. Do not wait for permission. Do not ask for guarantees. The world belongs to those who build. Build leverage, not just income. Build systems, not just effort. Build vision, not just hustle. Because the people who win are not always the smartest, or the fastest, or the luckiest. They are the ones who think in terms of scale, structure, and strategy. And now you know how they do it. The question is, will you do it too? Will you keep building around your current limits? Your salary, your time, your energy, your fears? Or will you step back, zoom out, and begin building something that can grow beyond you. Something that can multiply, serve, earn, and scale even when you are not there. That is leverage, and that is freedom. Let us end this with one final truth. You were not meant to spend your whole life managing limitations. You were meant to rise above them. You were not meant to work endlessly for survival. You were meant to build for expansion. So stop thinking like someone stuck and start thinking like someone strategic. Stop waiting for more and start using what you have to create more than you ever thought possible. This is not about doing more. It is about doing what multiplies. This is not about being busy. It is about being built on leverage. And once you build that, everything changes. Now go build.